representatives, actuaries, and business professionals. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service continues to intensify its efforts to combat crime following a series of anti-crime exercises conducted between August the 19th and 20th. During one exercise in Carnage in the Western Division, officers acting on intelligence searched an abandoned structure at Moya Trace and Hague Street, where they recovered one .38 special revolver and 2 rounds of .38 caliber ammunition. Later that day, ITTF officers executed a search at a residence in Cunupia, where a firearm and 2 rounds of .380 ammunition was discovered and seized. 2 persons were arrested in connection with this incident. Additionally, officers responded swiftly to a report of a robbery in St. Joseph, where a vehicle stolen at gunpoint was later recovered intact in Prisgar lands. The vehicle was taken to the Besson Street Police Station for safekeeping. Investigations are continuing. Internationally, U.S. celebrity judge and social media star Frank Caprio has died at age 88, his family has reported. Over a 40-year career in Rhode Island, he famously used compassion and humor to make judgments that took into consideration the personal circumstances of the people in the dock. Videos of Judge Caprio presiding over cases on his hit TV show Court in Providence have had billions of views on social media, earning him the title of the nicest judge in the world. His death following a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer was announced on his official Instagram account, where he was remembered for his warmth and unwavering belief in the goodness of people. Judge Caprio had presided over thousands of cases in his hometown of Providence, Rhode Island, before embarking on a TV career. After being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2023, Judge Caprio said he was fully prepared to fight as hard as I can, and thanked his followers for their support. In one of his last social media posts, Judge Caprio announced he was back in hospital after suffering a setback in his treatment and asked his followers for their prayers. Judge Caprio is survived by his wife of nearly 60 years, Joyce Caprio, as well as their 5 children, 7 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Well, that's news on the hour on WESN. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God. So we kind of have a stalemate.
You'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim.
we exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
WESN.
This is one morning where I am some parts annoyed, some parts upset. So before we get into some of the things that I want to get off my chest, a couple housekeeping items, if you will. First of all, Crime Stoppers are saying air horns are valuable, you know, because there's a situation where robberies are foiled, and this is one of those very easily accessible, relatively cheap options for any community watch to implement, because the idea is if everybody in the community has air horns, if you're there and you think you're in danger, you don't need to install some kind of panic button with all kind of electronics. You just have the air horn and you blow it, and then everybody else in the community should be aware of what's going on. Everybody starts tooting, everybody starts checking in, you know, and at some point somebody checks with the police, etc., etc., etc. The whole community will be aware. And that's the thing. The interesting thing about any sort of automatic alarm is, yes, it will go off when you're not there. The problem is, as we have experience with the phenomenon of car alarms, at some point, society started to ignore car alarms, right? Because more often than not, it went off by accident. So we don't rush to respond to a threat or an incident. More often than not, something hit the car, you know, a ball, or the wind, or a leaf, or some dotishness, right? Alarm goes off, and then it's just going off in the parking lot. And we kind of tune it out. And that's to some extent one of my concerns for people who want to rely on home security systems or an alarm. Will the public respond? Well, if I am physically blasting an air horn, at least everybody who's home will know that it's me, and not because some cat tripped off a laser. And the other part is, at the very least, this is a strategy to safeguard yourself. To some extent, if they break into your house when nobody's home, that is a different level of crime, right? The people are not at threat. And if you still want an automatic alarm, that's fine. But again, there's the risk with an alarm system that it might just get ignored. But when you're home and they want to come into your house, whether or not you have kids, but that just makes it worse. Whether or not you have old people, but that just makes it worse. You need a way to ensure that no one will mistake the cry for help for anything else. And like I said before, it's relatively cheap and easily accessible. You just buy the air horn, everybody buys the air horn, and that's that. So I agree with that. It's not the be-all and end-all. You should still do everything else that you could do in order to safeguard your house. Like I always say, there's a Delta Force operator, former Delta Force guy. He speaks about lights, cameras, dogs, before he even gets the guns, right? Let's be clear. And he has his own personal firearms, but that's where he starts. It's not nonsense that the police are telling us. Now, it's almost like if it's the same side, different sides of the same coin, because, you know, in two administrations, we've had two central bank governors who essentially are looking to get compensation for being fired potentially unjustly. We'll see where this current situation goes. But right now, the former central bank governor is looking for $9.8 million. I don't know if he'll get it or not. To some extent, listen, it doesn't matter if he was doing something wrong in his job. What matters is if it was good enough to remove him or not. And if it was not, then it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I don't care what he did, what he didn't do, what he's rumored to do, what he might have done, how he talked to the prime minister. None of that matters. As long as nothing is sufficient enough to fire him, then he deserves compensation. You want law and order? We cannot pick and choose what rules we follow and when we follow them. We can't say, you see what the PNM did? And then, oh, but the UNC did it, so it's fine. And that's why it's disappointing. It's not disappointing because I want to see the UNC fail. It's disappointing because you couldn't do something smarter than the last guy. Please? More on that in just a bit, when I really start to lose it. There's a situation with the virtual court proceedings. There was a couple of articles that touched on it, one of which was the fact that in certain police stations, apparently, the room that they use for lineups were being taken over for virtual court proceedings. And I thought that that was crazy. That was crazy because it seemed like the station didn't necessarily want this to happen, or at least most of the officers there. Because if I needed to do a lineup, then I would need to take everything to some other station. That would make sense. Right? Now, the Justice Minister is looking to move virtual court to Port of Spain Magistrates Court. And at the very least, the thing is, I got the impression from the story that I read before on the complaints of the police that it was almost like if the judiciary was dictating what the police could do with their stations. At a time when resources are tight, I don't think the police service needs to extend any sort of extra courtesies that's going to impact their operations. And there are people saying, no, there's nothing wrong, it's just a screen. No, but to some extent, you can't just have an accused at a virtual hearing in the middle of the station, out in the lobby. You can't put them in the bathroom. They have to go somewhere. It has to be relatively controlled, relatively private, relatively free of distraction, and relatively, not within earshot of the public to disrupt it. And the commentary made it seem like, but we just put them in front of a screen. What's so hard? And that just goes to show, to me, really and truly, how little people actually think things through. And then it makes, depending on my read on it, I'm not surprised that the judiciary is in a mess. I'm not. I'm just not. Because listen, I understand somebody had a bright idea, it didn't work out in all practicality. That's fine. Those things happen. It's the perpetuation of it. So at least in this case, I'll say kudos to the Justice Minister for at least trying to, I don't know if that's his motivation or not. I don't want to spend too much time on it. All I'll say is he might alleviate the problem on the police side. I don't know if this is going to now cause issues with the Port of Spain Magistrates Court, but that, at least then, let the judiciary solve that on their own and not involve somebody else and have to rely on somebody else's resources and impact someone else's job. That, I thought, was borderline ridiculous. But that's not what has me heated this morning. Oh, no. By the way, another thing to clean up, police apparently will be deployed in 80 high-risk schools in the new term. That's nice. Okay, could anyone tell me where these officers are coming from? How long are they going to be there for the whole school day? What's that, 8 hours? Do we have that manpower available? Can anybody tell me? And here's the thing, do you want to put rookies there or veterans there? Because rookies there could mess that up bad. And veterans there could detract from the proficiency of the people that we need out on the field to deal with hardened crime. Now here's the sad reality. I understand that to some extent you have bad influences on school children and in school and bad amongst the school violence. But let's be clear, the long-term solution to that, to stop happening in the school, is not for the police to just be there to suppress it. That's not a solution. That's a temporary solution. That's a holdover, but that's not a solution. Because I keep saying this, and Police in schools is one of the main things that I say this for. At what point are we going to stop trying to pile on more and more responsibilities on the TTPS, which many people acknowledge is not necessary? Listen, you want faster police response times, but hey, it's going to be at least 160 officers per day, because you're going to send at least 2, if not more, right? So if it's 4, it's going to be 320 officers, just to these 8A schools. Now, there are a few thousand police officers. They're not all working on the same shift. So 300 active duty officers at a time, 160 active duty officers at a time, is not a small number. Yes, it's possible. It's not impossible. It's not necessarily impractical, but we're talking about margins now that might make the math of how we're going to patrol, how we're going to cover certain responsibilities, etc., could potentially make it real dicey for the police, because it's not going to end with these 8A schools if you don't actually solve the problem as opposed to trying to put a Band-Aid on it. What's the point of putting a plaster on a cut if you keep cutting open the wound every 3 days? If you keep tugging on your stitches and breaking your stitches, what's the point of stitching it again? Maybe we need to figure out why you're pulling the stitches apart each time. What are you doing that you're not supposed to be doing? Rock climbing after surgery? I don't know. All right, why am I at a different level of energy this morning? Well, let me introduce the topic, then we'll take a break, and then we'll introduce our guest for today. A little bit behind on the timeline, but there's a situation in San Fernando. There's a situation in San Fernando where fishermen are basically saying there's a fishing facility with a wharf. There's a fishing facility with a wharf where a party boat is operating out of. There's a fishing facility where a party boat is operating from the fishing facility's wharf, and a minister is running cover for this party boat, because when the actual authorities tried to remove the party boat, the minister apparently intervened and said no, he could stay. A party boat that is not just working around the fishermen, but actively impinging on their work. And what has me upset is on multiple levels, it seems we all not winning when UNC wins, right? It seems what the Prime Minister said on something this straightforward and disrespectful, because we can't even say, at least as far as I'm aware, we can't even say that it's just politics because it's PNM people complaining. I do believe San Fernando West voted for the UNC, and these are salt fishermen. And if you want to throw race into it, it's generally a racially diverse group. So I don't think that's a factor. I just think it's a minister potentially, according to the fishermen. I mean, it's not a 1% in Port of Spain. Is it fine for corruption if it's not a 1% in Port of Spain? Because I never think about it. A party boat from a fishing facility? Well, I guess the Prime Minister's threats only apply to certain members of cabinet. When meeting with certain people, that's what it looks like. This is a very good way to ensure that you don't win San Fernando West again from the next election for I don't know how many elections after. If this is the start of things to come, I am diversification and food security. You want us to take those things seriously? I don't know. Victimizing fishermen ain't the way. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll welcome retired Inspector Ashraf Ali. Stay tuned.
Welcome to ASTI, Advanced Solutions Technical Institute. We offer hands-on training in drone technology, fiber optics, hybrid, security, business support, and more. Our programs are built to equip you with real-world skills for today's evolving industries. Get certified, get hired, and take your career to the next level with ASTI. Call 778-2135 or email info@astitnt.com. ASTI, where learning meets opportunity.
KDM Health Limited says, test yourself for STDs in the privacy of your own home. Our self-help test kits for all STDs are available at our wholesale office in Chaguanas. Call 283-1423. Visit our website at www.kdmhealtht.com or email us at kdmhealthlimited@gmail.com to place your orders. Available at all health institutions and pharmacies. Contact us for a free list of products and prices.
I am Dr. Delphina Ovid, your friendly neighborhood dentist. At Community Hospital Dental Clinic, we offer examinations which include x-rays, basic oral cancer screening, and a treatment plan. We also offer cleanings, fillings, extractions, root canal treatment, and complete and partial dentures. Remember, you don't have to brush and floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Struggling with heart health or frequent migraines? Discover the simple steps to reclaim your energy and vitality.
We're diving into a topic that affects about 422 million people around the world: diabetes.
Tune into Wellness Unlocked, the series that delivers expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and well-being. Your health matters. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
Welcome back to Talk About Ladies and Gentlemen Show. Michael Small, joined by Disaster Management and retired Inspector Ashraf Ali on this end of the week, Friday morning. Ashraf, good morning.
Good morning, Sean. Like, there's never a stopping or a slowing down. The crime rate might be down, the number of homicide might be down, but the number of reports of corrupt behavior in this country is not slowing down.
All right, before we have some topics on the review that we'll hit that speak to crime. Some of them, both of them actually scary, but probably a little bit under the radar in some ways. There's a couple of things that I just want to go past with you. First of all, it's the story that I just spoke about. There's a fishing facility in San Fernando. The authorities got involved. Apparently the minister called. Like, just from your perspective, because I'm not going to ask you how many times a minister intervened in your job, but generally speaking, as a former member of law enforcement, something like this, is there anything I'm missing here? Because there's a part of me that doesn't want to just outright condemn the current administration for it. But to me, as much as it might seem like a small example to a lot of people, and it's not affecting a lot of people, to me, I think it's highly disrespectful.
In the context of what our minister calling?
In the context of this is a fishing facility. We are worried about food security. We are worried about the poor. It's not as though fishermen in this country are considered to be rich people, right? And someone apparently is hijacking the facility and has a minister running for cover. And then the extra disrespect comes not just with the administration selling us when we win, everybody wins, but also the Prime Minister sold us on the fact that she will ensure her cabinet does not get out of line. And my point is, it seems as though they only care about if they have some kind of high-powered meeting with 1%ers in Hyatt. But when it comes to party boat operators or any other private interest in other parts of the country, I guess they have their cover. And to some extent also, it does make me wonder if that alleged quarry operator that may or may not be involved in Wayne Stage's election campaign, that may or may not be involved in the threats against his life, it's all alleged, and maybe it didn't go to the point of threats, but his involvement and expectations of quid pro quo. I mean, look, allegedly there's another minister there currying, doing favors, because Customs exercise, Coast Guard, and police officers once attempted to remove the vessel but stopped after minister intervened. This is according to the Cooperative Vice President, Clinton Lochan.
Alleged.
Alleged.
However, I would say that in the context of what you're referring to where persons intervene, I would say, let's be fair and objective. I am just being fair and objective. Is the intervention an appropriate intervention to ensure that they can address the situation? Because both parties have a vested interest. True?
Well, this is the thing. It's the San Fernando Fishing Center. So
even though it is San Fernando Fishing Center, I understand that context.
Because apparently,
however, it's a port.
Right, but it's a secure facility, not a public wharf, and the party boat is taking up a berth that apparently was intended for larger fishing vessels, as number one. Number two, the operations of the party boat, according to the fishermen, so it is alleged, when they are trying to utilize the port, there's a crowd basically blocking any passageway from the boat through the jetty, to the shore, etc., etc.
So are we saying that the San Fernando port is a private space?
Well, this is not a port. This is apparently a whole separate thing to whatever port was there.
And
it's a secure facility, which means that outside of
a secure facility means there's restricted access towards that facility. Not anybody will be coming in there.
Right.
So the average person shouldn't be walking in there. But how I'm saying, if the port is being used as an area to dock or receive passengers for an event. All I'm simply saying this. I am not taking any sides, but I think if the minister, and this is not the first time I would say that a minister communicated directly with police officers and expressed concerns or asked that certain things be dealt with differently, not corruptly. But let's hold our hand on making a decision like that before we can sort out X, Y, and Z. That is all I'm saying. So it's not a new situation. I am not talking about anything untowards that that person's alleging. But if there's a conflict in the parties, high-handed approach on one side may not be the best solution. If there is, and there clearly seems to be a conflict with respect to that. So if the minister steps in and say, listen, hold your hand on making any rash decisions. Let us deal with the situation. I am only saying I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I am only giving the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think you're being a little too generous because
that is what I'm saying. So
you are being generous. You admit this.
I admit I am being very objective.
You're being generous because I don't listen. It might even be legal what they're doing, and I still don't care. Because essentially, what you're saying is we're going to sell a community on the dream of a fishing facility, and then the moment that some other non-fishing private interest comes along, right, that either owes a favor, earns a favor, has money, whatever, the intention of the government project goes out the window. That's what that tells me.
And and
then the other thing is this. This is not somebody got their police friend to remove them, somebody got their Coast Guard friend to remove them. There are 3 agencies in on this, which tells me, yes, I understand that a minister might have called and said, hey, don't move heavy-handed. But based on the fact that they've gone to the press, it implies to me that this situation is not so simple as a minister saying, patience. It's more looking like a minister said, leave it alone because I want it so. And if that's not the case,
Sean,
then the government needs to explain that to us and not be silent, which is the mistake most politicians do at times like this.
I could agree with you on the context of our explanation as to the level of intervention. I cannot agree with you because I am not there, I have no knowledge of any conversation.
That's fine.
So we could agree on both sides.
That's fine.
But at the end of the day, we have to reach the middle of the conversation. The objective here is what? Let's resolve that conflict.
This is interesting, folks, because this is the kind of show the different perspectives, because I'm looking at it from public relations, communications, and to me, like I said, even if there's nothing illegal going on, this is a direct contradiction, what you're allowing to reach the public sphere, that is the government, right? Because they're not in charge of the narrative. They have caused a situation that has caused some hurt feelings. Unsettling emotions by what is oftentimes underrepresented, overlooked segment of the society, which we should, as an island nation that needs food security, we should put more importance in. I'm just saying, this is not rocket science. We want food, homegrown food. We are fishermen and we treat them like second-class citizens. This is kind of dumb, right? So to me, I'm looking at it from the optics of it, because the optics will go far and hurt you even if you're doing everything right behind the scenes, if you're incapable of communicating it properly. And that comes down to things like leadership, and that comes down to things like proper communication to the public to ensure they have reasonable expectations. And these fishermen either, because to be honest, when I was first thinking about it, I did want to kind of say, you know, according to the reports, assuming everything is things like that, you know, to put disclaimers like that. But then the more I thought about it, it's like, are they lying? Now, maybe they don't fully understand the situation, but if that's the case, then that means that the authorities did not communicate to them properly.
So I'll just ask at a very
oh God.
Let's put it this way. They may not be lying, but are they telling the full truth?
That okay? Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
This just brings to the fore how we treat with certain type of conflicts. This is a serious conflict.
Yeah.
Because it impacts not only the fishermen, it impacts much more than that. It impacts the optics of how we look at it. It impacts how this present administration is communicating as opposed to not communicating effectively. So it's all about how this is resolved in an amicable way. What is it? First things first. I do not know what was the overall intention of the facility, who it was intended for, and the type of facility in the context of what it could facilitate and what can't facilitate. Now,
there are other party boats.
Exactly.
No one else is there. So no one else is using the fishing. I mean, unless I get it wrong, it's labeled fishing facility.
And this
doesn't always mean
that it does not always mean. So
limited.
These are just some of the issues, and I'm saying that when you're dealing with these type of public interest issues, in the height of every single thing that we have that always tends to go on the political landscape. It is not a normal. We don't treat anything under normal conflicts anymore. And when I say normal conflict, where both parties can sit down and discuss. All of a sudden, the conflict escalates into a political point of view. Which party, which way, everything like that.
Here's the thing, to some extent, the only reason why I'm upset with the current administration is because the fishermen identify they believe, basically they're identifying the timeline saying, Madam Prime Minister, kind of implying that this minister is doing things that she doesn't know, so they want to let her know. So I'm pretty sure that this complaint at least isn't based on something that happened before the election, right? It could have started before the election, to be fair. We don't know that for sure.
I would let that play out and see how it play out, because we have another frontal thing. You have anything else on your mind? Because we have something more frontal I want to bring to the fore, if you don't mind.
Just a couple of things. But yeah, this things like this, you need to lead from in front. And there's one situation, the Prime Minister made a comment on the lawyer, the alleged UNC lawyer that might be involved in that whole fiasco. And she was like, stage. I'm like, time out. At a certain level, you don't delegate. If you don't have the answers, you're the leader of the country. Anyway, that's the PR side of it. That's not the operational side of it. But before that, there's two things I want to get to, right? let's just go let's do the formalities daily review. Just quick, before we get to the big topic, 28,000 rounds of military-grade ammunition, right? Just want to touch on this. To what extent does the police have full jurisdiction on this? And to what extent the military would?
So, the police have no authority in this. Absolutely no authority at this point in time. Based on the reports, based on everything that happened, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force would have initiated their own internal investigation because it was missing wrongs. Initially, it was missing wrongs, or unaccountable as the case may be. Mission/unaccounted for. It seems that there was some level of, after the report, based on the media reports, that there was some accountability for it. The accountability is not in proper standing at this point in time, based on the reports that yes, it was accounted for on a particular for training and all of that, but it's just not reflective. There's no the
full paperwork and proof and everything.
But that brings much more question to answer. In that is not one wrong or two wrong. Like 28,000 rounds of 5.6 ammunition.
Generally, how many rounds are used in most crimes? Less than 100, right?
Well, yeah, plenty less than 100.
Like 40, sometimes less than 10.
That's a lot of rounds of ammunition that is questionable. I am not involved in the investigation, so I don't know. I am just going based on what the report is saying. But when I read the article, and the newspaper article, I was extremely concerned that the amount of twist in it, in terms of persons are aware of a particular process and how ammunition is used, utilized, and all of that. It brings a bigger question.
And for people to understand, 28,000 rounds, it's not like it's going to fit in the back of a teeter. 28,000 rounds, it's just a lot of mass and weight.
No.
You can't just hide it in your jacket, right?
That's an assumption that we are making.
If it's 28,000 rounds.
We are making an assumption on the number of rounds going missing or unaccounted for on one occasion.
Well, yes. No.
So it simply shows that the auditing that was done, this final auditing that was done, that recognized the inconsistency in the accountability and the record keeping with respect to wrongs. How long has that been going?
Exactly.
Because there's no documentation that is in the public domain because there's an internal investigation. Right? So whatever was unearthed in the investigation, the public would not have known how far back wrongs have been going missing and not have been accounted for.
That's what I'm trying to make. It's one thing if one gun goes missing. One person could potentially steal one gun, but 28,000 rounds, assuming the number is true, it's either, if it was a one-time shot, which is highly unlikely just because of the scale, right? You would need what? A whole truck or I don't know what. Or, more likely, as you said, this was done over time. However many rounds actually went missing, this was done over time, right? I suspect probably it might not be the full 20,000. You know, you mix in the theft with actual use. So instead of 100 rounds in trading, you maybe a shot of 50, right? But you say a shot 100, and it's easier to kind of mask. But that's just my layman.
And that is what a lot of persons are missing the bigger picture in the context of not the wrongs per se, but accountability.
Yeah. Well, listen, don't get me started on that and the defense force. Now, last thing, 300 vials of fentanyl has gone missing, right? The reason I want to bring this up is
accountability again.
But here's the problem. Fentanyl at times is utilized in other drugs. Yes, and fentanyl is more potent. And there's already concerns from decades now. Young people like to do things like take ecstasy, and not all ecstasy is actually ecstasy. Not all ecstasy is only ecstasy, right? And one of the risks of young people taking drugs is they don't know what their weed is laced with, what their cocaine is laced with, what their ecstasy is laced with. And if it's laced with something like fentanyl, now we're going to one usage could lead to the death of your son or daughter. Am I?
Yes, it is. And the medical professionals warn against anybody offering, because there are a lot of side effects because it's controlled it is a control. You have to.
But this is not just morphine.
No, it's not. It's dangerous. Based on that, it's a controlled substance. You have to have medical. It's prescribed medically for particular use. So let's say that this is now being mixed into other type of drugs. The risk factor for narcotics already, combined with this, it increases the risk factor tenfold.
But I mean, just on its own, the potency of it is highly dangerous.
And I keep
even more dangerous.
And then we keep coming. I'll keep coming back to the issue of accountability, and accountability from a different perspective now. Accountability in the medical, in our hospital environment. Is this the only item that went missing? No. Has there been nobody? Because if nothing has been reported, there is no investigation. And this is the concern that we have, that we keep pushing out. The only time you know something is happening, right, or to be investigated by the law enforcement if something is reported. But it does not say it didn't happen.
Yes.
Does not say that things have been missing in the environment. And in all spheres, we don't know unless something has been reported.
Listen, trends, youth and what they do is trendy, right? One generation, they say no to drugs. The other generation sees that and say, well, we're cooler than them, so we'll do drugs. And the cycle continues, right? This is just one of those things, parents, all I could say is just the risks are a lot higher now, potentially, with this out there, right? So do whatever you think is best, because you can't this is one of those things where you can't walk it back. You know, they can't come and say sorry and then sober up because they might not survive the first time. They don't have to ever use drugs before. They just need a friend of theirs to convince them to try this thing once, and that could be it with fentanyl, right? Because it's potent, but then it's also potentially indirectly mixed with something else. So yeah, that's. Now, on to where you wanted to go, Ashraf, because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I want to go to the Independence Parade.
Okay.
Because I feel that are we independent enough? I want to ask you the question: what is your determination of being patriotic?
My determination of being patriotic is to what extent do I treat my fellow citizens and the amount of concern, consideration, and work I do to try to solve societal problems. That's the first thing, right? Waving flags and jumping up when Kishore Walcott gets another medal, right? That is secondary to that. To what extent do I engage? And I'll be honest, I am a very quiet person, so I don't normally engage, right? But I do try to, at least in my personal life, not be inconsiderate socially. Let's put it that way.
So, this week I was reading some opinions in some of the news, and there was a particular editors in the thing that a particular individual, I don't call the person's name, but I want to use one of the areas that they were against the cancelling of the election, independence.
Right.
However, in their own article, they reported that our first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, indicated that part of being independent is also recognizing being able to be responsible, respectable. And I only want to use one aspect of that, responsible. Independence is being responsible. If a government based on intelligence, has to be a respectable government and respect that we are an independent country, and based on our intelligence, our independence and our citizens is at risk, are we going to use that and say, listen, that is not being responsible, we are not, you're not patriotic anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Is that being not patriotic? Does an independence parade alone acknowledges an individual to be patriotic? Is there that one day alone is only the day that we celebrate our independence? That day is to celebrate our independence. There's a physical day. There's one day. What about the 364 days of the year? Are we not independent and recognizing our national flag? How many Trinidad and Tobagoans have a national flag or uses a national flag? You know when they want a flag? When we have elections. What the flags everyone want to wave? Yeah. Everybody want to wave a party flag.
A party flag, yes.
So is a party flag patriotic?
The only time we have a national flag is if we make it to the World Cup, if somebody sets records playing cricket, or if somehow we get a medal in the Olympics. We don't go with the crowds don't go. Yes, the loyal supporters who supported Keshawn probably went from the beginning. But the crowds didn't go before he won that gold medal.
And I am simply saying, I'm neither for nor against the cancellation of independence.
Right.
I am for, and not because my experience is in policing. But if any government, it does not matter, the former or this administration, has intelligence that suggests that Independence Day parade and any events of that nature where all our heads of state, I don't have to like them, you know. I don't have to support them. I am simply saying this is not about the heads of states alone, right?
Well, because I said this on air this week, I believe, maybe Monday, because I was annoyed by this. The opposition leader said that the government needs to prove that they don't fire the criminals, and I'm like, no, they don't. Not like this. They don't have to do this. No. Why do they have to do that?
I could throw this out. I could throw it out to even the opposition, right? When the last administration had a state of emergency, what was the context of that state of emergency? Was it not because of the lives of the citizens, right? Where a group of individuals wanted to cause havoc and increase the amount of violence against the lives of Trinidad citizens? Is it the lives of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, the average life of citizens? Which life of citizens are we talking about? Any and anyone. They didn't say anybody. But on that occasion, it was okay for a state of emergency.
Yeah, I still find it ludicrous when people try to separate the two states of emergencies as though they're completely different things.
No, it's a state of emergency. No. Our former commissioner made a statement. Commissioner Griffith made a statement when he called the criminal elements to be treated as terrorists. There was a big hullabaloo about it.
Even I was like, okay, maybe let's not do that.
It was big. I want to quote this one. This is the FBI definition of what domestic terrorism is. I'm not going international. Domestic terrorism, violent criminal acts committed by individuals or groups to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influences, such those as political, religious, social, racial, and or environmental nature. That is domestic. What do we have right here, right now? We have groups of individuals, as the intelligence was suggested by the Commissioner of Police, that caused the state of emergency. That we have groups. We have groups who come in together to form an organization for.
I'll have to give it to you here. Before, when it was, because we didn't discuss everything right beforehand, right? So we're now unpacking the point of views together. But when we spoke about it, there was a transition. You pointed this out yesterday on the phone. There was a transition where the gangs killing each other, and then like sometime recently, all of a sudden, it's not so much the gangs killing each other, right? Now it looks like the gangs are getting more organized and aligning with each other. And when it goes now, and again, this is something that you and I, we're questioning this, the whole inmate, right, who is basically saying, my intentions are when I'm free, we lighten up everybody, right? hell of a thing to say, but it speaks to a mindset that they're going after the government. Now we're getting into the realm of terrorism, whereas before it was just killing each other on the streets and the public was getting caught up in the crossfire. Now it's like, no, we're going after politicians and all, right? We don't exactly know why, CPEP, Europe, we don't know exactly why.
So let me leave the US because we don't want to copy the US anymore, right? But our Anti-Terrorism Act, Chapter 1207, and here what it defines a terrorist act to be, as an act causing or likely to cause loss of life or bodily harm, damage to property or disruption in the public service or infrastructure with the intent to compel a government organization to act or intimidate public or political, ideologies or religious reasons. This state of emergency, if nobody understands a state of emergency, and I'm not using it because I am supporting our Commissioner of Police. I am using what the laws of Trinidad and Tobago say. And if people want to understand, this state of emergency falls directly in the act, in the terrorist act, where whatever the state of emergency is because of this act of terrorism. It is in our laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So wherever people want to jump up and say otherwise, it is within the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. It's a serious situation that we face ourselves. We are in a crisis situation when it comes to crime. Notwithstanding our homicide rate, and it is extremely
high.
It is extremely applaudable for this country.
Now,
as of August 2024, we had 53 homicides.
Right.
To date, as of yesterday, we had 8. That's an 85% decrease for this month.
Yeah.
Is it because of the state of emergency?
No.
Is it because of the state of emergency?
8 is ridiculously low. 8 is ridiculous because I think, if my memory serves correct, August was one of those high-end months. So
right. And I'm saying, is it because of the state of emergency? I don't know. Is it because of the efforts of the Trinidad and Tobago law enforcement? It could be argued otherwise. Is it because of the gangs have now decided, listen, let's hold back a little bit.
From killing each other?
Because when you look at the number of homicides, when you come down to the granular level of the type of homicides was taking place, almost 80% of them was gang-related. They are not gang-related anymore.
Even if innocents were caught in the crossfire, it's still gang-related.
It's still gang-related, and then you had other casualties, but it was basically gang-related. We're causing casualty. That caused an increase. Yes, that first state of emergency by the previous administration, it must be applauded.
Yeah, because we did see the reduction start from then.
There was a reduction coming. This state of emergency is a different dynamics because the intelligence that was presented to the commissioner, a decision had to be made.
And here's the thing. First of all, to be fair to former Commissioner Griffith, I don't know if he was sitting on any intelligence that could have suggested things would have led to this. Maybe not, right? Again, he was trying to, there's something wrong, and I'll use, there's a lot of things that tangentially come onto this, right? I'll get to the American situation and implications in a minute. But there was, you brought this up, a police officer was arrested, right? But the thing is, before that happened, his bosses suspected he was involved with the gangs in the Southern Division. They transferred him out, right? What does that mean? The implication is that meant that they couldn't arrest him at that time. And when I now say to people with regards to things like noise pollution, because I also use the example of weed, it's illegal to smoke weed in public, and yet have we ever seen anybody arrested for smoking weed in public? When we smell it, half the time we're out in public. I don't go out that often, so I'm sorry if that's inaccurate. But anyway, my point is we see a lot of these deficiencies where the police are basically saying we can't really do anything about it. Something is wrong with the system, right? And this is one of the reasons why I think both state emergencies were implemented, in order to cover those deficiencies in legislation and policy.
Exactly. And this state of emergency, together with the independence, is being branded about from the political platforms. We are being utilized. We are saying.
To be fair, I think for the most part, this is where, as much as I wanted to lambast the government over that fishing wharf thing, I don't think they're playing politics too much with it.
Yeah, no, right? I am in
Oh, you mean the public?
Politics from a government perspective.
The public commentary.
Yeah, the public commentary from, and I expected better from some of our individuals who are more experienced and more competent to give a different perspective. And I was hoping for a more objective perspective, but you're getting biases on both sides. Fair enough, you would get that. But I'm simply saying, with those two biases on both sides, is that we are saying that PNM alone recognizes independence, and the UNC does not? And but is it that it's saying that because Dr. Eric Williams was also the founder, was part and parcel of a PNM government?
Yeah.
A PNM administration, that Trinidad and Tobago belongs to PNM?
Now, there's two sides to this. One, I agree with you. Like, I keep saying, this is not the kind of thing where, you want to wait and see what happens, right? Because if something actually happens, we're not talking about, oh my gosh, we spilled some milk. We're talking about, oh my gosh, we spilled some blood, and it wouldn't be a small amount of blood, right? People will probably die if we just wait and see. Well, how bad could it get? We need to see it bad before we acknowledge it to get bad. The flip side of that is, and this is something that the current government does need to understand, they are operating in a political environment that they themselves help create. And to some extent, the country has more hope in them as the replacements to the last administration. But even with that truth, the sins of the last administration still hangs over their head. Because they do anything that even remotely could be interpreted as something similar to the past administration does, people will be ready to jump on them. And I ain't gonna lie, for some things, at least myself included, because we want to see something better, not just, a little bit better or a little bit more palatable, but something that is strictly better, objectively better, ethically and morally better, that has more principles behind it, and not just, well, we'll try and make it look a little better. So and it's not easy, and to some extent it's not fair to the current administration, but that is the reality.
And I would hope that persons are understanding that Trinidad and Tobago is an independent nation. We do not need a festival, or should not need an event to acknowledge our independence.
Let me flip that around. Because you indirectly brought out this point. Now in America, I understand if America is like someone threatening 4th of July, we don't care where America, we're doing it anyway in defiance. Because why? Because almost everything they do is dripping with patriotism, right? They take things personally over there. 9/11 happened and real people decided, I don't even know if I'm good in the military, I'm gonna sign up. Right? George Bush got real approval ratings. Poor Dixie Chicks got lambasted. Right? But with that said, do we display that love? You indirectly pointed out. Where's the patriotism for the rest of the year? So why is it that we want a whole day to patriotism for one day, but we don't practice it? Yeah, we don't live it.
But what is it?
So how important is it really to us?
So the military parade or the parade of the national security apparatus is one aspect of that day's celebration.
I'll say this, I haven't seen anyone complain about not having any fireworks, or at least not as much.
But I'm just simply saying,
which is
that is one aspect. Yes, I acknowledge that is a significant aspect of that day. But
then also, again, things like that, people kind of underestimate at a time like now, right? I mean, look at the lower thirds, that is purposeful. Crime seems worse. The threat of violence seems worse. The boundaries of the criminal element of what they're willing to do seems to be pushing further and further back into the realm of complete anarchy. And we want to have a situation where people are going to converge randomly on the savannah and cause traffic congestion and Lord knows whatever. That's going to suck police resources. That's going to potentially, you could have normal incidents in that, but then while that's going on, you could have you know, the criminal element could do whatever they want. I mean, they know it's on the calendar, so to some extent, it's not unreasonable to say they might be planning on it.
And I am simply saying, the cancellation of independence is not Independence Day parade. Is not a cancellation of my independence.
Or your patriotism.
Or my patriotism. That day is still Independence Day for us. I am still patriotic to the flag of Trinidad and Tobago.
This is where cynics might say, you know, I'm going to be promoting private business too much now. But hey, we don't have an independence parade, but we could all buy flags and put it on our cars and wave it that
It is still Independence Day.
We could all buy pins. We could all wear national colors. We could all do something in solidarity.
So here's the other aspect of it. People may not like what I'm going to say. Who do I? It doesn't matter. I know I can't be put before the court for it. On that day, with the level of patriotism that you want, let us clean Trinidad and Tobago on that day. There's a lot of people complaining about the level of amount of garbage. Garbage on.
This is what
that is national pride of your country.
When you asked me what I think is patriotism, this is why I said what I said. What do I not do? I go out of my way to make sure I don't litter. I go out of my way to try and make sure I don't inconvenience anyone doing their job if they're serving me, if we're on the roads, right? Like, I go out of my way to try and be polite. I go out of my way to try to not cause any disruption to the wider society. And this is separate and apart to just my personal interactions with my individual community.
Why not have a week of national of independence, activities relating to independence, is showing our pride, our respect for our nation, the integrity, our discipline that we want to uphold. On that day, we stop doing we stop driving ridiculous on the road on that day. We can say that? Let me stop driving ridiculous on that day.
Thank you.
Let me adhere to all the rules on the roads on Independence Day.
But also, patriotism will give you a sense of, this is bigger than me. Part of the problem with crime is people don't want to get involved. Part of the problem with national issues are people don't want to get involved. I'm telling you right now.
We have a caller, but caller just before, I just want to bring this out. Where is our national patriotism? Where is the outcry of the public when a good Samaritan could stop on the highway?
Thank you. That's where I was going. Yes.
Could stop on the highway to render aid to a victim of a road fatality. Unfortunately, the young man lost his life. Yeah. To be robbed on that same day.
Because that's, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as you know, CPR for that young man, I'm not saying it would have. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. But for an accident victim, that could be the difference between life or death, right?
That could have. It could have.
Could have.
I am not saying that. But where's the outcry? And I want the MP for the area, and I am calling on the MP for the area right now. For that area, where's your outcry?
He gave the functional statements.
Right.
I'll just say that. I don't know beyond that. I don't want to condemn him more.
No, I'm saying these are things I want you to come on outcry. Hold the government accountable.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
For that aspect of it, and say this cannot happen again in a committee.
I know the caller's waiting. I beg the caller for some leeway because I just want to say this, and this is where now you get to patriotism, right? A lot of people might want to now, okay, you'll either condemn BSOM or you'll condemn the criminal element in BSOM. But this is the thing. In order to solve the problem, right, you actually have to solve whatever plagues BSOM. And as the rest of the nation, if we are patriotic, it's not that we just want to see these criminals sorted out and then leave everybody to wallow in whatever it is that caused people to become criminals in the first place. You want, hey, this community, something is wrong here. Let's fix it so that this doesn't happen again, because I fear what will eventually happen is the public will start to give less and less consideration to BSOM until we reach a stage where people are ready to abandon them or get rid of them, right? In the most callous way. And it will happen. That is human nature. It'll incrementally get there. And I really do not want to see that happen. And arguably, it has been happening for generations.
And it's not the entire community.
Yes.
Because the MP is a testament.
Exactly.
Right? is a testament, and he has said he's a testament, and I could applaud him for all his efforts of coming out of that. So it is not the individual.
You mean the community?
Yeah, it's not the it's some individuals within that committee, but the committee had to come out. The community has to come out and stand up.
The community has to support efforts to deal with the rogue elements in their community.
That is Peter.
Right? That is, it works both ways. We have to help each other on this, right? We'll take the call now. There's also this US thing, the commentary on it I want to get to, but we'll take the call now. Good morning. Good morning.
Diego Martin. Well said, officer, and good morning to Mr. Small there. Yesterday I raised the same issue we're talking about. Where is the MP for the Beatum in all of this? He has to show leadership. He has to show representation. As I said yesterday, he should have already held a press conference and making a clarion call to his constituents. Bring back the money that you took from the Good Samaritan. The other issue, the spirit, patriotism, and he suggested that day could be used for cleaning up the country. Yesterday on the newspaper, yesterday or the day before, there was a protest in St. James, and the Port of Spain City Corporation went and cleaned up the street right away for garbage. But you know what they're also doing? They're having a whole day of expenses for marching up and down, and they have issues with picking up garbage. So I concur with you. They should take that resource and clean up Port of Spain City, that particular 31st of Independence. Coming directly now to the TPS, I see an officer has been put into asylum and locked off. On another program, I asked a senior officer, and this is what I asked him, when he comes on the show again to promote the TTPS, I want to ask him, give me the metrics. How many police officers are suspended? How many are before the court? And what is the cost to me as a taxpayer? Finances is a scarce resources, so everybody has to pull together to manage the spending of a scarce resources. The other issue is, and I like it. The CFO of Caribbean Airlines has been suspended, and the big thing in the back of that, not providing financial statement for the last 9 years. And that is the sole responsibility of the former corporate and soul, that is Colin Embert. For you allowing a CEO not to present, and they're holding him basically to account for that. But it is much more. It is also the board, and I expect the board to be asked to account for that. And I'm going to juxtapose that with Paria and Heritage and the petroleum holding companies. Last year or year before, in a joint select committee, they haven't done their financial statement, making excuse for the last 7 or 6 years when they shut down Petrotrin. They haven't provided it. So I'm expecting some of those people who were the helm of to be brought before the people, we the taxpayer, to account. So I'm like what I'm seeing. Let us account for a scarce resource that we appear to be thinking. And all the information will come out now with all those transponders and ship turning it out and allegedly sending fuel and oil to Venezuela. The Delcy Rodriguez visit, all of those were at the same time. Hopefully we will get a clearer picture in the next few months or few weeks or few days ago. And have a nice morning.
Thank you, Kola. I'll just say this about the former Minister of Finance. His public utterances has already heavily implied, his utterances on the record, has heavily implied that he is ignorant as to the importance as well as the proper methodology, I'm reading out what I typed here to make sure I'm clear, the proper methodology / procedures of an audit with how he handled the national audit. So this is not surprising that he may have been a bad influence on Caribbean Airlines, or at the very least allowed them to do things that they should not have been allowed to do. And that is to say, undermine transparency. I'm not saying that any illegal corruption happened. I'm just saying how you operating without proper accounting.
So what you complaining about?
Accounting?
No, nobody has protested yet.
That's true. I have been protesting about tourism and things like Carl for years now, damn it. We have a call on the line. I can hear where it's from. Caller, good morning, you there?
Yeah, morning. Yeah.
Morning.
Yeah. Claxon Bay, yeah.
Yeah, mute the TV, Claxon Bay.
Yeah. Hello, good morning, Sean, and to the officer there.
Morning.
Right? The officer, you know, we said we independent, but the officer know very well that there are plenty Indian people in this country do not agree with independence. They say that. That is something that they just always say. They don't agree with independence. They believe that from the time we got independence, it didn't make any sense. They rather that we were scared with the English people and all this. They just always say that. If you listen to a lot of Indian people, they say that we are not independent because they don't see themselves as being independent. So this thing with what the government, the leader, right? The government that they did, that just support their you understand, the understanding to independence, and we don't really agree with that. We don't want for that, right? That's something Indian people just say, and the officer know that very well. You understand? He might be one who think it because he's an officer and accustomed to the military parade and different things. He might be one who's saying that.
So
yes,
I hate to say
I
this.
agree with independence.
I hate to say this.
But there's a
caller. Let me just caller. Let me nip this in the bud. Caller, let me nip this in the bud. Independence wasn't an option. The British Empire was dissolved. For the most part, we can choose if we wanted to stay part of Britain or not. For the most part, they divested themselves of the colonies. I don't even think it was up to us. Now, being a republic is different. Canada, the head of state is still the monarch. That's different. But independence, they were ready to let go of the colonies after World War II because they were in so much debt, and some of that debt was to the colonies. So, yeah, I don't think it was a choice that the PNM inflicted on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Let me put it that way, right? And like I said, republic status, that's different. So I don't know if what you're saying there, as much as I don't know who has that view, but I don't know if it's even a pertinent debate point that makes sense. We have another call on the line, St. James. Or we still have Claxon Bay? Go ahead.
I just wanted to know, Sean.
Yes.
I just be on the wrong, I just be wrong, and I hear that many times from Indian people. They don't agree with independence. They never like independence.
Yeah,
right?
but
I'm telling you that.
I understand that, but my point is, if you don't agree the sky is blue, can you change it to red? That's number one. Number two, to some extent, that's anecdotal. Like, unless you got that sentiment from, let's just say, 20% of the population, around half of the Indian population, we can't say that. I have friends of different races. I can't just go with what they say and what people in my neighborhood say or people that I meet every day say. Yes, I might meet a wide diverse of people, but that doesn't speak to the nation.
The problem is how we look at it.
That's why polls are wrong half the time.
You see, that's how we look at independence. This call just compounding what I've been saying.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the people who he's saying, they say X, Y, and Z, they themselves don't know.
They're just compounding. Because yes, you may have East Indians who are making statements from a political standpoint because they support a party. as well as so we have people who say independence. People they're supporting independence because it's a party thing.
Case in point, the Privy Council don't want to be our highest court of appeal. You know, they're ready to divest us too. Just saying. Just say. So, because I could see a world where you are then going to, people are in your circle are going to say, I don't want the Caribbean Court of Justice, I want the Privy Council. Hey, a day might come where it's not up to us. You know, we don't have I don't know if we have a right to compel the Privy Council of the United Kingdom. No, you must be a final court of appeal. We're not accepting that. They're not even in this region.
It's just because of the type of narrative that's been going out and the information that people are utilizing to make decision making. Yes. Because national security issues, and I can understand a lot of persons because under the umbrella of national security, you don't hear them, you can't get no information at all because it's a national security issue. That is an easy narrative to use.
Yes.
National security issue. But national security issue for a particular event that means a lot to a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago. Independence means a lot. Whether people believe it or not, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, on either side, all race, religion, whatever it is, acknowledges independence. They partake in the independence parade activities on Independence Day. They acknowledge. There are a number of persons who do not go to the Independence Day parade. But what they do, they go to the beaches, they go to other areas and celebrate that day in their own way as today is our Independence Day.
Now, that's the thing. If they don't agree with independence, do they go to work on Independence Day? Just saying. Okay, sorry, we have St. James waiting for quite some time now. St. James, apologies. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning. This question is to Ashraf. Recently, there was a detention order for some high-up lady who's associated with one of the detainees in Chaguaramas.
Yes, I heard about that.
She was held. It was also said that she's a gang leader or something like that.
Part of the gang, yes.
Okay. On one hand, she is determined to be a gang leader. On the other hand, I see nowhere where she was arrested as a gang person. Because, and the other thing is that a lot of these detainees, they were held because of the gang affiliation. But they are not being arrested and charged for being a gang member. I'm trying to understand that situation.
You and about 90% of the population in the same category because they don't understand. And this is where the wording for detention order causes a little problem. Because there's a standard wording in a detention order.
Right, regardless of what the reason is for.
Right, because detention order covers a category of things that you fall under.
You see, technical things like that, that's why when I say we have issues with the criminal justice system that could inhibit how law enforcement does its job. Technical things like this are one of those things because it's worded a certain way, and because it's worded a certain way, then the interpretation of it and how it can be utilized and blah, 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 and whatever limitations, and it's not just enough to say this is illegal. Then you have to have all your other ducks in a row, and how are you going to enforce that law? How are you going to enforce the penalties? What are the procedures to enforce those penalties as written in the law, etc., all the way down the line? Like one little law, smoking weed in public is illegal. It's supposed to have like a whole crap ton of literature, right, to account for as much as possible in order to ensure that the courts don't find that the law is unfair or unsound. We have everybody on the line. Good morning, call you on here. Caller, good morning.
So, Michael, small morning.
Good morning,
Go ahead. I want to ask a question. Morning to you and your guests. I want to ask a question. Some years ago, when Minister Hines was the Minister of National Security, and he was walking off the term, and a resident there kicked water on him. And he just kept on walking. And later on in Parliament, it is alleged that Minister Murilal told him, hey, snake has some lead for you. I want to find out whatever became of that investigation, because it was plain for all to see. And when you're talking about threats to ministers, that was open. The next thing I want to say is this. There are many people who don't partake in the national activities. For Carnival, some choose to go to the beach, some go to Bago, some go all over the place. Others take part. What we have to understand is this. If 28,000 wrongs go missing, like 28,000 lives, yeah, I want us to understand that. Because it makes no sense to me that we sit down here and we examine what J.D. Vance says when you have all these other little episodes occurring that just adding fuel to the fire. I wish we take off our subjective lenses and look at this thing objectively, please, because of the future of the nation. It's true, the murder rate has gone down, but with these threats hanging about in a state of emergency, it is getting worse. Have a good day, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yeah, because we can't stay in a state of emergency forever. If we have to depend on the state of emergency, because that's the big change. Yes, we have a new commissioner, but the reduction started before the new commissioner. That's the big change in the state of emergency, but we can't maintain this forever.
Exactly, and to add to to just respond to the caller previously from Arima, notwithstanding that persons have been detained under the SOE with detention orders, the final decision has to be under which law or which offense are they going to be charged for. That is what we are waiting on.
Yes.
So even though it is alleged they are members of gang or affiliated with a gang, at the end of this SOE, the evidence has to support a charge. And that is what a number of persons will be waiting on to find out with all the detentions, what will be the outcome of these individuals.
The broad powers allows law enforcement to detain someone.
Yes.
Right? But to say that they've gone through that process of being charged and then be prosecuted, that still has to happen.
Still has to happen.
Otherwise, we see what we saw in 2011. They're detained, but then they're released.
And it may be...
whenever that happens.
And we don't want to go down that road anymore.
Okay, we have a call on the line. Shogonas on the line. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I disagree. In fact, I agree and disagree. I don't know if I have Indian descent, why I didn't care for independence. I didn't care for independence because I don't think that we and the local politicians we bring up here care about law and order. And we are seeing that today, in that the people who are supposed to provide oversight on our law enforcement agencies in Trinidad, the politics, don't do their work. There is not a single ministry who do their job in a conscientious manner, and we don't have the politicians doing anything about it. You look at the state of the roads in Trinidad, and it don't take no rocket scientists to see that the people who dealing with it do not do their jobs. We had this thing about CPEP and URP and whatnot. That you don't put up two agencies to do the same job. That don't make sense. That is why we say we don't have money. We don't have money because we destroy our tax system. Any questions, gentlemen?
No, caller. In fact, what you just said is very much in line with a lot of the things that we've said on the show today. So,
really?
Yes, because we pointed out the missing ammunition is a lack of accountability there. The missing fentanyl is a lack of accountability in Ministry of Health. And that's the thing. There might be missing air conditions in some ministry that we don't hear about, or missing printer, or missing computers, or missing car in some state agency that we don't hear about because it's not high profile enough, like bullets and narcotics.
I was talking about the bottom line. Some people, I was saying the reason for this is we get independence when we wasn't fit for it. I think nobody say that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, caller. I hate to say this, but I won't automatically disagree with that statement. it's one of those things where nobody wants to say, oh, well, we weren't ready for independence, because that has a negative connotation. But if you kind of just detach yourself emotionally from it, there's a lot of countries that may or may not have been ready for independence. But that, to some extent, it's one thing to have that opinion. How do you prove that? How do you calculate that? How do you say that for certain? And even if that is the case, we are where we are, and we have to figure our way out of our current situation, right? And like I said, I don't think it was up to us to be independent or not, you know?
And that is why we keep in this cycle over and over, right? And the conversation of independence. And I think that the conversation is not only about independence now. This whole thing is hinged on Independence Day parade.
Right. But here's the thing also, how often will a nation be ready for independence? Like, yes, some nations might be lucky, like they naturally will be fine, they don't have an issue when they transition to independence. But to say that there's a way to prepare for independence or not, like, it's just one of those things where you're not going to know until it happens, and there's no real way.
We are going into 63 years. We are very young.
Yes.
We are 63 years is young.
Although there are similar nations that are worse off than us, that have seen worse things, but they have also had to overcome, and they have, some of them, successfully overcome those things.
And that is it. So we expect to see certain type of conversations and certain type of perspectives and with this holy independence, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. Fair enough.
Well, speaking of that, we do have a perspective. Let's put it up on the screen there. If we accepted cancelling Independence Day parade during a national health crisis like COVID, shouldn't the same precaution apply now in the face of a credible national security threat? I think,
that I agree with this.
No, I think part of the problem is not everybody wants to believe it's a credible threat, but my thing is, I'm sorry, there's no way to prove this is 100% going to happen until it happens, and I'm not willing to risk it happening.
COVID was not isolated at Trinidad and Tobago. The threat was it could affect a lot of individuals. Good? But when under national security, people take national security because how national security is structured, the language of national security, because you can't preempt actions that you want to, or telegraph actions that you're going to take. There's a strategic move. Criminal elements targeting you, and my definition of terrorist right now.
Well, right, so first of all, yes, this is, I actually, when I did the topic for the lower third with the escalation of crime being unbound and unabated, I actually didn't know that Ashraf was going to go there, and I can't disagree with him. I disagreed when Gary brought it up because the circumstances were very different, even though he had reasons which I do understand and acknowledge, because he himself was trying to find a solution to some of these problems that I keep hopping on the legislative front, right? So to be fair to him, I can't fault him for wanting to try and find a solution to deal with the problem, because people were dying then like they're dying now. But Ashraf is pointing the fact that now the criminal elements are basically, they're borderline terrorists now, if not engaging in terrorism, because of their motivations and what they're trying to accomplish. Here's the thing though, here's the thing. You said COVID was an international incident. Well, our national security, ironically, is not limited to a local issue. It is an international issue. It is a regional and international issue. And here's the thing about J.D. Vance. Our name being at the top of his mind tells me that it's not just some functionary in the CIA's Caribbean desk or Latin American desk paying attention to us, or some FBI narcotics investigation or DEA, right, or ATF branch for the Caribbean office, sub-office, focusing on us. We are probably part of their daily national security briefs in some form or fashion, especially with the deployment. And first of all, I find it very interesting Stuart Young wants to tell the American government what to do as not even the leader of the opposition. When Kamala did it as the leader of the opposition, how you could do that? Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't communicate internationally to other governments. How dare you do that? But you know, Stuart Young needs to protect his pet project, Dragon Gas, even though he's not the opposition leader anymore. But I understand when people want to say we are a region of peace and they don't want to see conflict. Now, with regards to David Abdullah, I think he's being idealistic. With regards to the other Caribbean nations, I think Well, we have a caller waiting, but I'll continue that line of thought. But it was very interesting under which banner they gave the statements that they gave. So we'll take the call from San Fernando while I look for that. San Fernando, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ali.
Morning, sir.
Let me say this, Sean. That mentioned by Mr. Vance of Trinidad and Tobago wasn't on a whim.
Yes.
That was strategic.
Okay.
Strategic.
Okay.
That is the fact that they have sent 4 warships with 3...
Six warships, technically.
4,000 sailors on the warships to the Caribbean.
It actually would be more than that. The 4,000 is just for the amphibious ready group.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The fact that they send it they're here to try and terrorize Venezuela. They have sent a message to us, telling us on national television all over the world, as we're looking at all year. That's what they've sent us. We're looking at all year. We know what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. We know what's happening in terms of people coming across the border from Venezuela. And that is the message in this. This thing where we're talking about where they mention us and the crime or whatever. That was the strategic thing. Because let me say this. The United States of America looking for a win. Donald Trump looking for a win. Because he ain't send troops into Mexico where a lot of the drugs going into America. He ain't send any into Colombia, into Nicaragua, into El Salvador, into Honduras. They're not doing that because Mr. Trump needs a win, and he thinks the easiest win right now is Venezuela. And this grand charge, and that is what it is. It is a grand charge because they're not going to invade Venezuela. Take it from me. They're not going to invade Venezuela. However, we in Trinidad and Tobago have to understand that we have become such a pariah when it comes to crime that we are now mentioned by the Vice President of the United States of America. That should be a wake-up call for everybody in Trinidad and Tobago to look at ourselves and start to do something different. Because just as the professor said, no institution is working properly in Trinidad and Tobago. That's why we are where we are. In other words, what he was saying is, as I say it all the time, Trinidad and Tobago really is a failed state, you know. We just, I don't know, really, what really is a Trinity, you know. It's like whoever Muslim praying, Christian praying, Hindu praying, like that is what's saving Trinidad and Tobago, you know. Because for all that is wrong in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's going wrong all the time, somehow we still moving. As you say, we jamming still. That's what you say, we jamming still. We have to, we are the bottom of this barrel. We have to decide that we're going up. And to go up, we have to start to do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. The citizens who are working in the ministries, the citizens working in the state enterprises, start doing the right thing because it is the right thing to do. No other reason for it. No other reason. Just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Imagine one other thing I want to mention, Sean, the Tobago and the carnival coming up. The crime in Tobago is not helping tourism in Tobago. When I listened to the diaspora meeting that Mr. Augustine had in New York, and he was talking about going to talk to the Prime Minister about having more flights to Tobago. Mr. Augustine really missing the point and not understanding what's happening. You know. And this is after the Prime Minister have said not one single route making a profit. Right? It's after the Prime Minister said that he want more flights in Tobago, not for the carnival. You know. Caribbean Airlines has not made money. The problem is that probably it's time we only have a domestic airline and we do have an international airline. Because you can't tell me that you're running an airline for so long. The first one we had to make it. We wrap it up, we wind it up, and we start the next one, and it's the same thing happening again with this other one. We can't be throwing money down the drain. You can't. I can't want to buy a ticket to go to Florida, and it costing more on Caribbean Airlines than it costing on JetBlue, and it cost and the other airlines. This can't be. I can't be paying $3,000 to go Grenada.
Yeah. Caller, we have another caller waiting, huh?
No problem, sure. So my thing is, Trinidad and Tobago, just do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. Have a good weekend.
No, I like that sentiment. I'll say this though. Pricing for flights is very complicated. I never really fully understood it, right? I could see where we're not going to be competitive on all routes, but then to be fair to the principle of what you're saying, why are we operating routes where we cannot be as competitive on? And there are a lot of factors into that. To some extent, it questions Caribbean Airlines. If those factors are reasonable, then does Caribbean Airlines need to operate at the scope that it's operating under if it can't really compete internationally? Because it is what it is, right? We can't have government money being used to kind of keep it afloat, not as a business that's going to operate at the cash flow levels that it does. If it makes losses, it ain't going to be small losses most of the time, it's going to be big losses, right? So this is one of those catch-22. Caribbean Airlines is one of those catch-22 things where we kind of have to figure out what we want from this entity moving forward, I think, in order to give it a proper purpose that's reasonable, so then we could have reasonable expectations for it. Everything else that you said, we will speak to later, but we have a call on the line. Can't remember what he calls from, sorry. Move on the line. Caller, good morning, you're on the air, sorry.
Good morning, Sean and retired inspector. You know, I find it laughable the way how some people are reacting to that the parade being cancelled. The average Trinidadian doesn't have an idea what independence is. What? They go out there and they talk about pride. What pride? What pride? You would go there and you would see the officers and well dressed and marching, and then you go back home in the night and somebody jumping over your wall and you call and they say, we have no vehicle. Where's the pride then? Besides that too, I have to say, and I've said before, a country that is lawless, that dysfunction is normal, that mediocrity is accepted, cannot be celebrating, should not be celebrating independence. How are we independent? Mr. San Fernando just said that Canada is practically a failed state, and every time I call Sean, I tell you, I remind you about those first crucial 30 years. We insist and we will continue to praise our first leader as the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that is where our problem started, those crucial 30 years. Now, if Trinidad really is a failed state, as Mr. San Fernando said, look, we assume it. How could we accept that? Okay, even if we say it's not a failed state, but we know that we're in a lot of problems. None of our institutions, as Professor said, none of our institutions work the way they should. We have one particular party that has been in power for 50 years. I keep saying that. Why it is that mathematics, arithmetic, doesn't understand the connection here? You're speaking about 50 years as opposed to the opposition in 17 and a half. Okay? Yet you would admit, as some of our callers just admitted, that something is definitely wrong with Trinidad and Tobago. Dysfunction, mediocrity. We are lawless. Right? Isn't there a connection? And I'm not being political here. I don't support any party. But you have to ask yourself, what went wrong? You know, I have lived all my life watching at this party that people love so much. You know, I've never voted for that party, and I can never see myself voting for that party. And I'm not advocating for any other party. I'll never make that clear.
Yeah.
But this country's in a mess. It is in a mess. You know, and people don't seem to understand where it started. We are not honest enough to admit that.
Caller, thank you for that last part especially. And I just want to say, caller, I appreciated what you just said there. Here's the unfortunate reality of politics. Not everybody is mature enough to understand. Just because I disagree with one side means I agree with the other side. Just because, you know, you had to pick a side. Why? What if I have standards, and if nobody meets the standards, I don't pick either? And that's the unfortunate reality of where I find myself most of the time. Now, I have hope with a new administration comes change, but I'm not going to sit down here and say change will come. What's the guarantee for that? Now, there's a comment I want to get to first before I move on the US thing and why this is important. This show of Ashraf and Small reminds you of Trump and Vance when they gang up on Zelensky. Anyone giving a dissenting view on your show is ridiculed. Stoops. Okay, first of all, if you had an actual pertinent point to make, you would probably have more details on that. Exactly what did we do? Now, the one caller that I believe we disagreed with, it is not a comparable situation. Zelensky had a version of events. Trump and Vance did not believe that version of events. I so happen to believe Zelensky's version of events more than Trump and Vance, who I think ascribed too much to Putin's version of events at the time. And now Trump is getting a wake-up call. Hey, maybe Putin isn't as great as I thought he was, because it seems as though he really wants to kill people. Anyway, they denied him in the sense of they disagreed with his version of events. They thought it was untruthful. They didn't like the narrative. They wanted to squelch it. We didn't disagree with the one caller that I could remember, you know, with regards to what he said. What we did was, at least from my point of view, and I think you were saying this too, what he said was statistically unreliable, right? Polls have hundreds of people, and polls of hundreds of people for our elections could be unreliable. Statistically speaking, are we guaranteed that he spoke to half of the Indian population to know that this is what the entire Indian population thinks, right? Like, that's just the reality. I can't go with what the people in my life tell me as the be-all and end-all. I will say, at least I try to remember to say whenever I bring up the opinions I hear, it's anecdotal and there are limitations to that from my own experiences. The other thing is this, historically speaking, and that's the point I was trying to make, that brings up a debate on if we should have become independent or not. And what I was trying to come across is, that wasn't really an option for most of the world. I don't know, maybe we did have an option. Maybe they said, oh, they have oil, maybe we should keep them. But then again now, what would have happened if that happened? The colonizers would be keeping us constrained, and then everybody will be marching for independence. And what Ashraf was trying to say is, that line of thinking seems to be more political than practical, because practically Britain said, we're not responsible for you no more because we have our own stuff to deal with. Because we are in so much debt to America and to the colonies, because they were outproducing the other allies in war production, due to the colonies. But somebody had to foot that bill.
But at the same time, we still follow the Westminster system, right? Parliamentary system. And in order for the Westminster system to follow, we must have an opposition and a leading government.
Yeah.
So when we were getting independence,
who was the opposition?
Who was the opposition? Who was the government?
Yeah.
Who would lead the government, the country as independence, right? So if we flip, let's flip it.
You're speaking to something that I don't even know if we'll ever accurately be able to delve into.
And this is what I'm saying. We keep using it. Mm-hmm. We keep using it. If the tables was turned, what if the party was not an African-based party? Mm-hmm. Would we say that? Would you say that independence was only for one race now? And we after 63 years. We say we're young, right?
Yeah.
But after 63 years, we're still singing the same song?
Basically.
So then we are really immature.
So this is the thing, I need to find out, is it that we are not multicultural, that we're not integrated?
That
if that is the narrative you want to have, that's fine. And the thing is, note, we don't say on this show, there's racism everywhere.
Listen to me, Trinidad and Tobago is known for its diverse cultures where we can live together as one.
But where do we say more often than not the racism is centered around? Not politics?
It is.
So then when Ashraf says that this is something political, I'm just saying, this is not, right? We have an update, right? So maybe government always use national security as an excuse for their action. We as citizens who have doubts about the veracity of government claims are castigated as unpatriotic. You must question everything or remain idiots. Well, here's the thing. And look, I use the same approach for COVID. In the first 6 months, the first year, I'm going to question things, but I'm going to err on the side of caution because I heard what was going on in Italy long before most people did, right? I heard what was going on in India, and I brought that on talking point. If the situation got out of control, we would not have just had 4,000 deaths. We would not have just had 4,000 deaths.
No.
In the early days.
I agree with the caller in terms of questioning everything. Questioning everything, fair enough. You could question everything. My thing about it, when you get answers or you don't get answers, if it does not satisfy your perspective, is it wrong?
Right.
So we have a tendency as human beings, if you ask me a question and two of us not seeing eye to eye and your answer doesn't support or confirm what I want to say, I do believe that you give me the correct answer.
The thing is, caller, we're questioning the patriotism of the country because, first of all, I am on record of questioning the patriotism of the country 365 days a year. I am on that record. I have brought this up before. Ashraf is the one that identified it on this particular topic, and I appreciate that because he's right. He is right to bring it up, to ask that question. Where are we for the rest of the year? And really and truly, how many of the people complaining about it actually participate in it? Even the day itself, right? Is it one of those things where you don't really care for it, but if someone wants to take it away from you, all of a sudden, you're like, no, you can't take it away from me. Do you use it? Yes or no? No? Then what does it matter to you? Because we're not taking your patriotism away, right? We're just saying it doesn't seem as though this is something that's important to most people because they don't actually express it on their own.
Let me tell a number of persons who do have experience for independence. And I never marched for independence, and I applaud all those individuals who march for independence.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah, yes. I couldn't march. I want to embarrass myself. Let me leave it right.
Oh, shucks, okay.
I embarrass myself.
I won't ask. I would not ask.
Right. But it takes a lot to put out. It's a showcase, it's a pride. All officers, and all persons on that parade take pride in what they do on that day to showcase themselves. Their family and friends see them and they feel proud to know that they feel proud to know that those are the individuals who are members of my family. And I want you all to understand that after independence, after that Independence Day parade, how many of you will approach a police officer and say, officer, I like the work that you do, or a fire officer or officer when they're performing? You all are the same persons who criticize every single thing of these same persons who we want to portray on that day.
But it goes beyond that. It goes to what Mr. Sanfandra said, right? We all know there's corruption, not just with the politicians, but throughout the public service. We all know the private sector will exploit not just their customers, but also their workers. We all know that workers in the private sector and the public sector might exploit the people who are just trying to get service. We all know that there are people, not just rich people and powerful people in this country, if they could if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. They will take what they can get. And they will not do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing. They will say, everybody else getting theirs, I need to get mine. Oh, is it at your expense? I need to utilize your fishing wharf because for whatever reason, my party boat, this makes more sense for me. I can make more money doing this way. I like these facilities, whatever, right? Yes. Ashraf doesn't necessarily agree with my stance, but it's the example that came to mind.
No, I agree.
Well, with that narrative, yeah, okay. So my point is, we don't see the patriotism, right? Patriotism. We're patriotic, right? We're supposed to be patriotic, right? Someone is dying on the roadside. And what is the response of the first members of the public to approach? To rob someone rendering aid. Show me the patriotism in that, please. Show me how we're supposed to celebrate that. I get it. I get it. It's not a nice thing to say we're unpatriotic. I'm not necessarily speaking about you, whoever is giving the comments. But as a society, I have said this about the society before. This has come up before. We only are patriotic when we have a sporting event, or when Wendy won Miss Universe, or anything like that. Right?
If it doesn't benefit you,
to celebrate.
To celebrate.
We're only patriotic to celebrate.
Patriotic. Like I keep on saying.
Not to serve.
I want people to reflect after this independence. On the first, we have a caller.
Yeah, we have let's say the caller. Yes, because there might be a follow-up comment. Yes, caller, Martin, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Ali.
Yes. Morning.
I just want to concur with Mr. Ali. A lot of what he said this morning was quite correct. And especially pertaining to Claxton Bay. The fact remains that the police and the commissioner of police, they are doing their best. I think they are doing a very good job. It's just that they need the support of everybody. But people coming down on them and just want to see everything happen in 1 day or 2 days or a month or 3 months. They need some time to try and get themselves going properly and having all these distractions. As far as where you were speaking about when we got independence, that it was thrown on us. I don't think it was thrown on us. We were asked by Queen Elizabeth if we wanted independence, and there was a debate between Dr. Capaldeo and Dr. Williams, and they went back and forth with it, and they came to one conclusion after a long debate, and decided to accept independence, and that's where we got independence from. The fact that everybody doesn't enjoy independence, it doesn't mean that they don't like independence. Independence is something that it comes from your heart. I mean, as a small boy, I was going from when I was 8 or 10 years old. My parents used to take me to Savannah to watch the parade and everything else. Just like Carnival, they used to tote me with everything. I had to tote everything to go to in bleachers to watch Carnival and all this sort of thing. And not to say I didn't like Carnival. I love Carnival. I liked how, I used to play bars and so on. But it isn't everybody like that. So people mustn't come and broadbrush everybody saying that they don't like this because of certain ethnicities. China is a very diverse and loving place where every ethnicity joins in every religious or whatever festivities there are. So people cannot be making those sort of statements. They're just trying to divide the country, and that is something we should never do. As far as where this thing with J.D. Vance is concerned, people just wait and see what is going to happen. I'm telling you something, I wouldn't say it, but I know it. Because I have a member of my family who was directly involved with them in states. So wait and see what is going to happen. I see Chorton is trying to bait the Prime Minister, the government to come out and make a statement saying, don't touch Venezuela. All along, when people telling me he was backing of Venezuela, he say no, he's being neutral. So how is not neutral now? But the Prime Minister is smarter than that. She is going to wait and you'll hear in a while what is going to happen. Then, and don't think that ships are going to come here. They are on the way. So yes, we will wait, and that comment is better. Wait and see. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call. I know I went over time and so on.
Yeah.
So it's all
well, we're over time. You're not over time. You're fine on time. But thanks, caller. Thanks. Okay. Good hearing from you again. I'll say this. I do want to get a little bit more into some of the international stuff to close off the show, but I'll just say this. The debate is operating without addressing a key issue, whether we would be better off being dependent. Because there have been scandals in the UK. Let's not get twisted. You see what happened to the Conservative government? How many prime ministers they had to change over in the span of a couple of months, not too long ago? So, we assume that they'll be better. Why? Why do we assume that? Right? Because again, if we didn't have independence, we probably would be marching for it all now, saying we don't want a foreign master who doesn't know us, who doesn't understand our culture, who doesn't understand our needs, who is too distant, etc., blah, 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 blah. The Privy Council, sometimes we like the ruling, sometimes we don't. Right? But at the end of the day, to some extent, that's the standard that we picked. We either change it or we stick with them for the most part, right? We can't just pick and choose the rulings out of the Privy Council that we like. So, with that said, one thing I want to give, first of all, okay, let's put the last comment up, because this person has commented a lot, but the last comment should summarize their sentiments. I understand COVID was an international threat, but the key principle was protecting citizens. A credible national security threat, even if local, well, the key point is some people won't debate if it's credible. My thing is it's credible enough. I think it's credible enough. This commissioner has been recommended by a PNM Police Service Commission, approved of by a UNC administration, and the state of emergency, which he was one of the lead.
And also being supported by
a PNM.
Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who support PNM and UNC.
Yes, but signed off by a PNM selected president.
So isn't that...
right,
isn't
so
that,
like, I'm not, I said it, I'm not looking at this thing as a political game, right? We're seeing the criminals kind of going off the rockers. We already acknowledge that these things happen in prisons. Like, the guns are there, the wrongs are there. Why do you want to risk it to prove a point that you're not really caring to prove? You just want to have a political debate. Now, here's the thing, and we need to understand one of the reasons why I think the threat is real is what's going on internationally. Right now, the US imposed a visa restriction on Grenada's finance minister. Ain't that something? Mm-hmm. The Grenada's finance minister, a sitting minister, has a visa restriction by the US right now. Ain't that something? You don't just half-cocked while you have a major incident going on, do another major incident on the side that is unrelated for no good reason. Now, Mr. San Fernando thinks that Trump wants a win. Usually when a politician wants a win, they'll be like, I need a win for my supporters. I need a win for my image. And they don't necessarily care what the win is. They care how practical the win is, how easy it is to get, what the risks are, things like that. I think Trump wants a win in this, yes, because for good and bad reasons, for benevolent and for self-centered arrogance, he wants change in this situation. The sad part is, or the harsh reality, or the inconvenient truth is, to some extent, I also want change in this transnational crime situation. Now, I don't necessarily want to risk regime change in Venezuela, but then again, Venezuela is not the most stable place to begin with anyway, right? So that's a whole other debatable point. The presence of these ships alone might have an effect on transnational smuggling. We don't know, right? And I welcome the attention by American authorities. Why it's the Navy and not DEA and ATF and FBI? Because in Mexico, they didn't send the Navy to Mexico, right? They didn't send the Army in Mexico. They have pre-existing law enforcement arrangements and facilities there. So true. But they don't have necessarily that here. And you need to ask the question, why is it that we don't have more involvement by foreign agencies? Because the drugs go to them, right? They have an interest to be involved with us, right? Why we don't have them here? Who is ensuring that the party boat, and my party boat, I mean drug smuggling boat, is allowed to use the fisherman's wharf, and by fisherman's wharf, I mean all of our ports of entry? Who is ensuring that, right? So, as much as we agree with the government that we don't want to risk the threat, we're also saying, hey, there's a lot of things you'll need to account for. Lack of accountability.
So I can agree, I can support your decision. I don't have to agree with it.
Right.
So because I am saying based on this, I am supporting the decision of stopping the independence, not canceling independence parade. That activity.
Okay, I need to get this point out.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, sorry, we need to wrap up, but I just want to last say this. The Bolivian Alliance for the Peoples of America, People's Trade Agreement, ALBA-TCP, right, which includes 4 Caribbean countries, Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, and St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadines, right? They issued a statement, apparently. They are against brutal yet groundless attacks by the U.S. Well, ships sailing in international waters are not a brutal attack. They didn't do anything yet. right? China has also condemned it. China has made artificial islands to claim territory in the South China Sea, which is potentially against the spirit of international law. Just saying, right? So in a situation like this, the experts, what did the experts say? We should stay neutral. Because we don't know what they know, but we know that they know that we have issues, as people have pointed out. J.D. Vance knows. They know we have issues. They know that senior government officials are involved in human trafficking. They probably know who is running cover for the drug smugglers and for the drug lords. They probably know who the drug lords are. Just saying. Just saying. This threat, let's not underestimate it now. Because could anyone tell me that they saw the signs in 1990 and they saw the coup come in? No, you're not going to see the signs. Now the commissioner is saying, hey, we have some signs, we have enough. If it's lies, well then they'll pay the price for it after the fact. I don't want to risk citizens' lives because it's not just politicians that are going to be caught in the crossfire. With that said, thanks to the callers, thanks to all the commentators, even those who disagree with us. That is the whole point of the show, to debate these issues, and I appreciate the engagement. Ashraf, thanks for joining me once again. Remember to stay safe. Remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. That is essentially what patriotism is.
Be patriotic.
Don't forget, it's nice to be nice. We'll see everybody. Be each other's keeper, right? As much as we're tempted not to after what happened on Ibiza the other day. Be each other's keeper still. Don't lose heart so we can see each other next week. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Well, hello everybody, welcome as usual. This is 10 questions.